Coming up, Google launched the Pixel 9a. Will I care? And we've got feedback.
You're listening to Double Tap, your daily accessible technology show. Now, here's your hosts, Stephen Scott and Shaun, Preece.
I'm so sorry to the Android people, I really am. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Double Tap. Hello. Shaun, Preece, how are you?
I am great. Thank you, Stephen Scott. How are you?
Do you know, I feel good. I'll tell you why. Because you know what? I like the fact that you're in charge of the feedback now. So you are the one who, you see all the feedback coming in. You can respond. You do respond a lot on WhatsApp.
Yes.
I noticed you've responded less on email because recently you lost access to the email. You've now regained that.
Yes.
Shaun, Preece, honestly. But, I must say, I do feel a lot better. I feel almost stress-free.
I'm glad you feel stress-free over this. We are trying to make a dent in the amount of emails. Again, thank you so much. It's amazing. I will say, Stephen, there's been a bit of a reaction in the inbox lately to one of our episodes.
Something you said?
Well, funnily enough, kind of, yes, but more to your reaction to me shutting my fingers in the Uber. Yes, it seems like some people are really upset by that. Have you got any
upset that you trapped your fingers in the door?
No. The reaction seems to be, how can you laugh at Shaun trapping his fingers?
Oh, I see.
There's a little bit of a reaction to your laughter, Stephen
So there's
Scott.
a reaction to my reaction to you reacting to having your fingers slammed in a car door.
So I think, for those people that have emailed and WhatsApped me, thank you very much, by the way. Much appreciated. Have you got a statement to that?
Yeah, I mean, I laughed.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you,
No, you know what? Just to be serious for a second, we got a couple there that were really upset. And I want to say, firstly, thanks for getting in touch and thanks for caring so much. But honestly, it's all fine. No,
we were
Stephen,
just having some fun, right? I mean,
yes.
I was, I suppose, more than you at the time.
I've got to say, Stephen did ask if I was all right. He even asked if I needed...
I'm not going to be like some Netflix documentary next week, the monster who just laughs at people. I mean, I checked he was okay first, then I laughed.
Yes, then continued to laugh.
Yes.
He did even ask if I needed an ambulance as well.
And can I just say, I cared more than the taxi driver cared. He did nothing. That guy was useless.
And... yes, for anyone that knows me, I mean, there is a little bit of the boy that cried wolf here because there are times when I will go, or whatever.
Yeah,
and Stephen may have thought...
Maybe that's the problem, I think. Sometimes you I have to say, Shaun, you are possibly the funniest guy I know.
Yes, not
you
always.
You make me genuinely laugh out loud. And the problem is sometimes I can't quite differentiate between this is actually a serious problem and, this is just a guy who's just naturally hilarious. And you are naturally hilarious. That's the thing. So actually, I blame you.
Yes. No, you know what? We should say, look, thank you for everyone that did get in contact with your concern and, some very, very angry at Stephen. But honestly, it was fine. There come on, look,
this is what Shaun and I are like. You want to hear us on a daily basis.
Yes.
The thing I think a lot of people don't realise, and it's kind of part of the reason this show I think works for us. So I don't know about you guys, but for us it does. You and I are like brothers from another mother. Right? We're so kind of, I don't know, insimpatico with so many things.
Oh.
And I like that word. Don't know what it means.
Know what it is. Is that a film?
Let me ask. Yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's... Does that know the one that starred Matt Damon on a planet somewhere? I vaguely remember that. But no, I mean, we just get along that well. And, I know there's a problem. Look, I mean, let's be honest. With the day that you fell and broke your leg, there was no one laughing then, right? That was not a laughing matter. Because that's serious stuff. And of course, if you were ill, I would not be laughing anywhere. But, yes, please don't get annoyed about it. I say that. You are annoyed, I understand. You're not, though, are you?
No, exactly. And that's the point, right? It was just one of those situations that we all have. If someone trips over, you laugh and they go, are you all right? And then they say yes, and then you continue laughing. So there was no problem there. Thank you.
I once got on a train, and I will never forget this moment. I got on the train, and there's like a door, a tiny little door that the driver or the conductor opens, right? And he opens the door, and he can, I guess, communicate with the driver. But he'd left the door open. Now, it's kind of at head height. It's kind of almost the size of a head. I mean, it's that kind of height. It's at that level. So I got on the train, I grabbed the handle, I kind of pulled myself onto the train, and I went head first into this little door. And I've never seen stars in my life, and my head was spinning, right?
Yes.
I could not stop laughing because the whole situation was so ridiculous. I had no idea because what got me was, what did I even walk into?
Oh, that's nothing worse when you don't know what happened. It's
No idea.
Yeah.
And he's trying. I had to get him to explain to me later, and I'm like, "Did I break the door?" Because I went into it with some whack. I wouldn't have surprised me if I'd broken it. And I think the guy thought I was going to sue him. You know, it's like this guy's going to lose his gig. And I'm like, "Look,
well,
it's
at
a
least he
mistake."
was concerned,
Yeah.
unlike Mr. Uber driver.
I know he couldn't care less.
But it's funny. I've done the same thing. I've walked in between. When crossing a road, I remember this like it was yesterday. Walking in between. Not parked cars, but cars that were waiting to turn out onto a main road, right? And, okay, there's a big queue. I can walk in between. Yeah. I walk in between these two cars, and the car to my left had ladders strapped to the roof.
Oh!
And, of course, bang, straight into the face of me. And I could hear the laughter from all the cars in the queue. Because, let's be honest, if you're watching that, there's just this 6-foot guy walking in between cars and suddenly straight into the back of these ladders hanging off. Yeah. It would have been funny, right? Of course, if I was bleeding and led on the floor crying, then there's a different thing. But yes,
the problem is where I come from, the likelihood is they would still laugh. I remember when I was cycling, in the days I shouldn't have been cycling. And I think I told you this story. I was coming along, but back to my office at the time. And there I am cycling along, and the next minute the bike stops dead. And I keep going. I had hit a wall that I didn't even know was there. And so I ended up on the grass. Almost, again, that kind of bemused, what just happened there? And
somersault.
I could hear the laughter from the cars. And you know what? People laugh. People react. These things are, again, there are situations in life where we laugh. There are situations where we absolutely don't laugh. And that's fair enough. But yeah, I mean, look, him and I, we are... this is what we do, and we're a little bit like that with each other. So please, if you may not be used to our humour yet, but I promise you'll get used to it over time. We do like to take the mick out of each other, which is kind of part of the fun.
It's fine.
It's a fondness thing.
Can I just say, blind cyclist, stop.
I know.
Stop. I did the same thing. I used to cycle to the gym. I know, that's how long ago it was. Every morning at 5 a.m. Until that time, I did exactly the same. The bike stopped. I was over the handlebars. Oh, God, yeah. And I still, to this day, don't know what I hit. Pothole or something. You know what? Just don't do it, honestly.
I got an email, actually a voicemail from Callum Stoneman, a regular listener and contributor to our show. And he was talking the other day about this, that he said, I'm so glad you guys talk about these things. Because these are the realities, right? These are the frustrations. He was talking, and I won't play his message, it was a private one, but he was kind of talking about his own challenges. And one of the things he kind of talked about was that the family will always try and make it better. Or they'll say things like, well, okay, yes, you can't drive your wife to the shops, but, you can at least get online and buy something that way. It's almost like they try and come up with at least there's something you can do. And I think the reality is for a lot of us, there's a real frustration, isn't there? Sometimes a real frustration. And it's almost like you've got to acknowledge that frustration. Yes, absolutely, there are things I can do. Like, for example, now with Uber Eats, I can order a takeaway in type thing, right? So I can do that if I want. So I don't have to think, I need to get, like I used to say, I want a driverless car so I can, get up to KFC and bring one back. So I can feed my family with spicy chicken.
Yes.
But now I don't have to do that because someone else can bring it, and that's great, and I can pay them, and I feel good about that. But it's not the same, is it? And that's the thing, and this is the part about the acknowledgement, and what we do here, I think, is we try and talk about that honestly. And we do laugh, we do get emotional as well. And listen, if you've heard some of our previous shows, that's what gets me, is everyone complains when I say something nasty to you. I had someone say it to me in CSUN as well. You're always rude to Shaun, you're always nasty to Shaun. I've said nice things to Shaun, and no one ever responds.
Have you? When was that exactly?
It was in an episode. It's in there somewhere. Go search online. There's a database of episodes. Hey, listen, have you been watching Adolescence on Netflix?
No, but everyone else has, apparently, including Sarah, who was... she watched the entire thing. She just kept coming in and saying, It's so intense. So yes, she's loving it. Have you?
I did. I watched it the weekend. Couldn't do it all in one day. It was a bit too much for one sitting. I know people who do binge these things. I that one was a particularly heavy couple of episodes. We'd started watching it kind of late in the day. Watched 2 of them, and I said, look, I do want to come back to this, but my wife and I, we just watched it again and continued it the next day. It's a very hard show to watch, but I actually think, it's not one I would recommend normally. The subject matter is intense, but I think it's a really important thing, especially for parents, because I think there's a lot of parents out there, and it's really no fault of theirs. I mean, you can always argue the toss about responsibility and all the rest, and my view on responsibility, personal responsibility, all that, but it is so tough with kids. And I know families who say, you know what, as a baby, or not maybe as a baby, but as a young child, 3, 4, 5, giving the kid an iPad just to let them watch their cartoons, it just gives the parent a break, right? I get it. I understand that. I totally do.
The TV and Teletubbies when my kids were young.
Exactly the same thing.
I totally understand it. Yeah.
Exactly the same thing. The challenge is, though, as they get older, there's something different to when your kids were growing up and when I was growing up, and certainly when you were growing up, which is that social media has become such a huge part of our lives. It still, in my mind, is there, and it's very much a part of our lives, but I can walk away from social media. I can live without social media. I don't check it during the day. I never check X or Mastodon or any of those, unless I'm sitting doing nothing or I come into the office, because I'm a bit of a computer social media surfer for some of the stuff I do, especially for news and stuff. I can use the computer to go through it rather than going through it on the phone. I am a little bit bad at night when I go to bed. I will admit, I will sit down sometimes and just, that's me hooked into some fight that's going on X. And I'm sort of reading the comments while I was munching popcorn. Oh, this is good.
Human nature, yes.
Yeah, it is. I think it is, and that's part of it. And I can understand how it sucks you in. But what I wasn't aware of before I watched that show was the impact it's having on kids. Now, I kind of know, I guess, what impact it's having, but never really seen it. I don't have kids, so I don't know the impact. I certainly don't know what school's like. And based on that show, if that's anywhere close to what school is like today, by God, I am glad I'm done with that. Because it just seems like an absolute nightmare for teachers and parents, because these kids are growing up at an alarming rate, and they're growing up at such an alarming rate because of the content they're seeing online. Now, it's picking up on the issues of people, and I'm not going to say his name because I really don't want any involvement with this individual, this person that people will probably know who I'm talking about. If you don't, well, maybe you're better off. But this is an individual who has been going around spouting the most disgusting things about women, disgusting things about how to treat women. And, this guy is basically become a bit of an influencer towards these young kids, these young boys especially, who maybe don't have a role model to look up to, or perhaps that role model just isn't there. Now, what adolescence does brilliantly, I think, is it kind of picks up on all that. But it says, and the way it does it is it's not blaming the parents. It's not saying the parents are at fault. It's that the dad is working so hard to look after his family. In the earlier days when the kids were younger, they would spend lots of time together. But now, the kid's at school. He's working hard to make sure that his daughter can get a good college education. The same for his son eventually, who's at secondary school. So you can see that what's happening here is the fracture is coming from the amount of effort and work the poor family have to do to keep everything going. And of course, with rising costs and everything, you can see how it all merges together, right? And then in the end, what is left? A child left in a room with a device. The parents feel a little bit more settled because at least the kid's got something to do. And what they're unaware of is what the kid is actually doing. And I think what that show is going to do for a lot of parents and for a lot of people, and I love the way they didn't blame people on it. They just went straight for the, look, it's almost like maybe it's time to find out what your kids are actually doing on those computers, on those devices.
But can you ever? That's the thing. You can take an interest, and there's software out there you can get for monitoring, internet browsing and things like that. But even then, kids are so up on this stuff that it's not easy at all. I think, if anything, that this program and programs like it sort of highlight is maybe we should be looking at social media more. The sort of content they are dishing up to children. And even adults to one effect.
This is the problem. It's never going to change.
Yeah, but why not? Why not? I mean, if we have that attitude that it's never going to change, we're never going to try. Actually, I think it should change. Social media. I mean, the whole definition of what's an influencer, it's always had this sort of, oh, he's an influencer, he's popular. But actually, influencer is the perfect word because, the influence can be bad.
It's not just selling products.
Cases,
I mean, it's selling ideas. It's selling
it's not a commercial
ideological
thing anymore.
No.
It's yeah, absolutely right.
Well, it is commercial. It is commercial to that individual because he's making money off those clicks, those likes, all that stuff, I guess.
There's money to be made in outrage. That's definitely true. And it's a sad situation. But I think social media needs to be held to more account. I don't know how you do that.
I do think that. I agree with you. But I think the chances are it's more realistic to have parents take more responsibility of their kids' devices. Again, I'm not blaming parents. I have friends, you and many others, who say to me, you don't know what it's like, Stephen, you don't have kids. And I say, yeah, I know, and I understand that. And of course, as a person who doesn't have kids, it's easy for me to sit here and say, oh, just, don't give your kids a phone. Don't do this. I wouldn't do it. I don't know what I would do, honest to God. I don't know. I don't know if I'd be the type of dad that would fall in line with every other kid because the kid's saying, but all my friends have got a mobile phone. I need a mobile phone. I need this. I need that.
It's easy to cave in. And plus, not only that, there are many benefits, being able to contact your children, being able to, with Find My or whatever other tracking, you can see where your kids are. Something,
but that's
having
a
phone is really positive.
How did that start, right? Because I remember when I was a kid, my mother, to the most part, I'd leave for school and I was in a school on other side of town, right? Other side of the city.
Yep.
She didn't know where I was from one minute to the next. I would maybe go to my friend's house after school. She didn't know. And, if I was lucky, I'd be able to make a call on my phone, on the landline phone in the person's house. That was as best I could do. We'd meet friends. We would just go. I used to go into town every Saturday to meet my friends. We'd all meet up at this particular place, for my friends will know, Platform 6, because that's where we always met at the train station. And that was just our place. We'd meet, like Harry Potter. And I don't watch Harry Potter. I know nothing about Harry Potter, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But anyway, we'd meet there. Now, of course, someone might not be well that day. Someone might not be able to turn up. So they just didn't turn up. And we just assume after waiting 30 minutes, they're not coming. And that was it. We just go. What happened? What changed that we have to know every single movement our children make all the time? What's changed in our society?
Well, hang on. You can't have it both ways, as parents need to be taking interest in what their kids are doing. And at the same time, who cares if they go out all day? At the same time, you need to, it's nice. I'm not saying every second of the day, but, to check in on your child. Hey, I still give my kids in their late 20s a ring and say, everything all right? Where are you? I still do that every now and again. Not all the time, obviously. But, it's still nice to be able to do that. And technology allows you to do that. But
all right, I'll give you that. Okay, so fine, right? You can have your phone for that purpose, okay, for location or for contact, because that's what they always say when a kid gets a phone. Everyone always says the same thing. Well, it's for emergencies. Of course, that's the last thing any kid ever uses it for. They use it for absolutely everything else. They're on Snapchat. They're on these things, and it's funny when I hear now. I mean, one of the things that adolescents brought up that I didn't know is that there's a whole code behind these emojis. That I just thought emojis were silly little illustrations. But apparently there's like a whole world behind, like a whole language behind them. It's like learning Braille, but, with yellow faces.
No, absolutely. Look, it's scary. But, I mean, every aspect of this sort of thing is scary. I think, look, it's just important that these sort of movies, TV shows are made because it does shine a spotlight on it. Even if only if the interest lasts for a few weeks, still it does make some people. It may change some people's minds and attitudes. So it's a good thing.
It's certainly got a lot of international interest, that's for sure. Which for a show which was made out of the UK, it landed on Netflix, which of course means it goes out to a number of countries. I think 71 countries, and it's like number one in so many of them because so many people are interested in this. I heard a journalist talking about the fact she'd just come back from India. And everyone's talking about it over there, and you think, wow, that's incredible.
Can I say, I can't watch this sort of thing. I don't know. I can't stomach it. Sarah was watching Adolescence, and then she watched something called Black Swans, I think. And again, that was harrowing. While she was watching those and getting upset, I was watching the SpongeBob SquarePants movie and having a great time. So,
I think you're on the right track, to be honest, mate. I think I would go down that
sort of stuff.
I think I would rather
still
do that.
Some great stuff out there, though, right?
There is. And look, I get it. I used to, every week or so, there'd be another drama on the TV. You think, oh, that's good. This one sounds great. Oh, serial killer and murderer loose and whatever else. And you think, oh, this is great. And after a while, you think, this is actually really depressing me, you know? There comes a point where you have to cut it off. And like you say, just watch. It's like, you know, okay, let's put on Sound of Music. Okay, it's probably a little bit depressing in some ways, but, you know, the music's good. So, you know, we'll go with that. I think
you got to monitor yourself. You can't wallow in this stuff.
My life approach, and hence why I probably get so many people criticizing me for laughing at you, is I just don't take life that seriously. I take things seriously when they need to be serious.
Absolutely.
I'll be serious, and trust me, there's plenty of things to be serious about. But, you know, when it's a laugh, I try and have a laugh. Because honestly, the world is very depressing as it is. I think we need
much like social media, you know, if you wallow in one negative topic in your life, then that does affect you. You need to have some sort of balance there and some sort of rationality.
I did a news program for 9.5 years on a breakfast radio every day. And by the end of it, I had no idea the impact that it had on me. And I wouldn't quite go so far as to say my mental health, but I guess you could say that in the sense of the relief. I didn't think about it, did not think about it. It was only 2 or 3 weeks after I'd finished the show. And I suddenly felt lifted because I wasn't watching the news every night. I wasn't having to keep up to date with everything the way I was. So I could kind of just forget that and focus on good things. Because when you watch the news every night, you would think the world is coming to an end tomorrow, or it's all gone to hell.
Everyone is
handcart.
absolutely horrible.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
But didn't you always finish on the, you know, the surfing squirrel or, you know, the and finally story to cleanse the palate?
So I remember, so it was a newspaper reading show I did, right? So we had volunteers who would come in, wonderful people who would come in every day and they would read the newspapers. So I'd host the show, they would be doing the reading. And I remember we used to have this segment at the end, the and finally. And one of the volunteers clearly missed the brief on the and finally. And I'll never forget, as we got to that, and I'm laughing away at this story, which I thought was funny, because I thought it was meant to be funny. It turned out it was not meant to be funny at all. And then the very last line of the story was, and then they all died. And that was my... We're back tomorrow, folks. And I actually, we ended up calling the show unofficially the "And Then They All Died" show, because every story we ended up with seemed to be we managed to pick all these stories, or they picked the stories that all ended with people dying, and it was just, oh please, not another one.
Wow. Okay,
So no, the short answer is no, we didn't get the "and finally" we were looking for.
Inappropriate laughter. Is that the episode?
Now you know why I
title?
laugh so much, right?
Wow.
Because you gotta laugh. Hey, listen, never mind all that. Let's talk about the Pixel 9a, because we haven't even touched on this yet. Pixel 9a,
we haven't.
Was it last week it was announced?
Yes. Well, it was a weird one, right? Because it wasn't officially launched, and then people started to unbox it on YouTube.
Oh, yes,
because it was available in Dubai, I believe.
Right.
So it was people had their hands on it. So they sort of, okay, it's here.
So this is like the iPhone 16e, would you say? This is like their equivalent?
Yes. Or as used to be the S cycle of the iPhone back in the day. They have the Pixel A series. The A stands for affordable, is how I put it. I always remember, was it the 4A I first got my hands on?
Oh,
one?
yeah.
And it was much like, hey, here's most of the features of the actual main Pixel, if you like. But hey, it's got a plastic body and there may be some, features missing. But it's a lot less. I think it's an absolute bargain. I love the A series of Pixel phones.
Yeah, $499 US, $499 UK, and that's pretty impressive actually. A price. I mean, look, they're going after the 16e market for no doubt at all. And look, there are a couple of things that they say are missing from it in terms of the AI functionality. Nothing, I would say, show-stopping that's missing out of there. Just a couple of the features, and I guess that's because of the type of processor they've put inside it. Look, at the end of the day, if you want more, you got to pay more. That's the way it goes. They have to find a reason. I mean, it's like the 16e, right? It doesn't have MagSafe in it. And you think, well, hang on a minute, I want MagSafe. Like, okay, we'll buy the 16 then. Yeah. Pay more money. That's how it works. But the difference is here, the pricing structure for Google or it is Google. Sorry, it is Google.
Google
Samsung,
Pixel.
Yeah. Google Pixel phones is I think much more affordable at the entry level. Now, look, of course, people will always tell me that $500 or £500 is a lot of money. Of course it is. But look, if you want the latest, or you want to get your ladder on the ladder of the greatest, then I do think you want to go down the Pixel route. I mean, look, again, you don't have to buy the very latest phone, because the last phone to get, or the latest phone to get Google Gemini was the Pixel 8 Pro, which is actually the one I've got. That's the one I have. That was the most recent one I got. And I bought that one. Google never sent me that, but I bought that one. And it's a gorgeous phone. Really,
You
really
bought
nice.
an Android phone, Stephen
I did.
Scott. Aside from that lovely flip Motorola that you like, I know.
That's not a flip.
Oh, is it not?
No, you're getting mixed up with
forget
the Samsung Flip I've got, which is
yeah,
ancient.
you
now. I've
have.
got that Z Flip 3 or whatever it was, Z Fold 3.
I can't believe you bought that one.
Neither can I, to be perfectly honest. I think it's barely been on.
Let's not go off on a tangent.
no.
I will say, the Pixel phones are...
Oh, hang on, that's
a second.
Apple phone.
Sorry,
They're not
this
happy
is
with me
Google.
talking about
Wait
this.
a minute.
This is no, it's Apple calling you. I guarantee Apple are calling to say, stop talking about Google phones.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, have you put them off?
Oh, wait. Oh, hang
this
on.
is exciting. Right, Sean's. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll continue talking about this phone while Sean sorts this out. So, the Pixel 9a. So this is as you would say, the affordable version of Pixel. That is now available for that price. And what you're getting here, I think, is that affordable device. And I will say, I think Google phones, I've said it many times, the Pixel devices are the best because you're getting that stock Android. I used to call it the raw Android. And a lot of people don't like when I say that. But ultimately, you're getting the experience that Google imagines you should get, right? This is what they imagine is what Android is. If you go to Samsung, you're going to get their version of it. There's some differences there. Of course, you get a different talkback as well, which is kind of weird. If you go to Motorola, you might get a different skinned version of it, different layouts, all that stuff. So there are benefits to it. Plus the fact, if you're getting a Google phone, you're going to get the latest updates. So when a new Android OS is announced, you will get it. You won't be waiting a year or dependent on when Motorola or whoever else comes along and actually bothers to update it. So, that's why I think it's a good idea to go down that road. In terms of the camera and everything else and all the things, look, I think, again, I've said it before about the iPhones, I'll say it about Android. I think we're at a point, Sean, where it doesn't really matter anymore. The quality of these devices are so good that, even if you bought last year's 8A, you'd be doing all right.
I've got a Pixel 5 here.
Yeah, there you go.
It's absolutely fine. So, yeah, I think, I just agree with you when it comes to the stock Android experience. You're getting the pure Android experience, and that makes a difference. It does make a difference that you don't have to deal with any bloatware or any, manufacturer trying to push their particular way of the App Store or whatever it may be. Not that, that's necessarily a bad thing, but when it comes to accessibility, I think, the pure stock Android is the best way to go. I think the Pixel phones are generally great. And, as I said before, the A series, the affordable way in there. And I honestly don't think you're missing anything fantastic that from the main one, the Pixel 9 in this case. So, yeah, a great affordable way in. Let's also say this, of course, Samsung, you got the S25 Ultra now and Plus, and you got the flagship phones there. But you've also got the A series when it comes to Samsung. The J series is still a thing. And my kids used them for years and they absolutely loved them. You could pick them up for $200 or something.
I know, it's amazing. And I've got a Samsung S25 Plus that I'm kind of reviewing at the minute, and I'll be talking about it more in the coming days. I've got to say, some interesting little nuances to TalkBack that I'm wanting to compare and contrast between the Google phone, Google's Android TalkBack rather than Samsung's version of TalkBack, because there's a couple of interesting things going on. I'm like, well, that's quite cool. Is that available on it? I didn't know that was even a thing. I've never seen it before. So I don't know if that's like, there's some of these features you don't know if they're rolling out on one versus the other. So I'll talk a little bit about that because that's quite cool.
Well, we don't live in the Android world, so we are.
It's all of it's new to me. A lot of this stuff is new. But I will say that you're right with the bloatware thing, because like setting up the Samsung, you got to go through the whole, right, okay, so I've set up my Google account on it. Now do I want a Samsung account on it? And oh, hang on, do I want Google Pay? Yes, but do I also want Samsung Pay? And oh, hang on, you've got Gemini. You've also got Google Assistant, which I think is eventually going away. Oh, and you've also got Bixby on there as well. It's like, hang on a minute. It just gets to the point where you just are absolutely swamped in choice, which is cool, but it kind of just loads them all on with no real sense. And I'm like, okay, so what am I meant to use? When I hold down that side button, what am I going to get? Let's hope it's not Bixby, because that's the worst of the lot. It's the Cortana of Samsung.
the problem is it's confusing for people. I remember trying to set my mum's phone up, and of course, do I use the Samsung App Store? Do I use the Samsung Gallery? Do I use the Samsung messaging app? Do I use... So I honestly, I would just stick with the Google side of things. It does confuse people. There may be some benefits to it. As I said, I don't live in the Android world, so honestly, I don't know.
And again, yes, I know I'll get emails from people saying, look, there's cheaper options, there's other options. Absolutely right, but I'm focusing in here on the Pixel 9a because that's the new phone. Do I think it's worth the money? Yes, I do.
Yes.
Is it better than the Pros? Well, of course, there's going to be nuances there. There's going to be differences between them. The question is, ask yourself what it is you do. If you're just browsing the web, if you're just going through apps like Facebook and Mastodon or whatever it is you're using, I don't know if you'd need much more than this. It's like the 16E. The only thing that bothers me about the 16E is the lack of MagSafe. If it had MagSafe, that would be my daily phone. It's just because I've got so many MagSafe accessories. So it's like, I feel I've kind of got all these accessories. I need to, stick something to them.
Okay, so you get the 16E, you stick a MagSafe case on it, and everything is sorted, right?
Yeah, I could do that. Okay, fine, I'll do that then.
There we go. Well
More
done.
money spent.
That's that fixed.
Thank you, Shaun.
Well done. Yes.
Email.
Right, let's get some emails.
We get email. We get your email every day.
Ding dong.
Here's your mail today.
Some of it happy, some of it not so happy.
So I'm angry.
But the upside is it's Shaun that listens to it. So there we go. All good. Okay, let's move on and let's hear from Christy first up.
Hi guys, quick message. Or I'll try, lol. Every time I hear you both talk about Facebook, I'm surprised because you always refer to being addicted to the video feed and want to delete the app. The one feature on Facebook I never ever use is videos. The few times I tried it, it seemed I only heard music and hardly ever understood what the video was about, or couldn't really get anything from it. I heavily rely on Facebook to stay connected to family and friends who I've met all around the world, mostly because I am not good at keeping in touch in any other format. It started many years ago when I was working out of town and travelled a lot. It was so much easier to simply add a post that I was in Victoria this week, for example, or home for the long weekend, than to reach out to all those who wanted to know where I was at. Whenever I travel, I love sharing updates from my travels, and now with my Meta glasses, it is easier than ever to add pictures or video clips I took myself. This brings me to my second favourite feature I love about Facebook, the memory feed. Nothing can brighten my day more than reviewing a bit of travel log or a pleasant memory when it pops up. This day 10 years ago singing Christmas carols with my niece, or something like that. Unfortunately, Facebook, the Canadian government and those who control news media had a dispute a while back, and now we are unable to share any news here in Canada. I find this frustrating, as I had subscribed to media feeds that I trust, and every morning it was a regular practice to swipe through the headlines and share major events, or things that may be impacting the people I care about. It was nice to hear, 5 years ago on this day, such and such happened. Now it simply says, this content isn't available in Canada. In response to Canadian government legislation, news content can't be viewed on Facebook. Living in an area where there are wildfires every year, I find this deeply troubling, but that's not the point of this email. I'll move on. I find the iOS app quite easy to use for the most part. Of course, they break it once in a while and I have a day or two of frustration, but I've always found it far easier than the web version. I completely do not want a blind Facebook, and I'm glad they retired m.facebook.com, especially if it had security concerns. I think the point is that they need to be sure the version everyone uses is accessible and easy enough to use for everybody. If we had our own site, it feels comparable to wheelchair users being required to use the back entrance to a business. I belong to a number of groups and find tremendous value in many of them, from local events to people with sight loss. It may be different from country to country, but for me, I go to the feeds link near the bottom and then choose groups near the top. Then my feed is filtered from newest posts to older, just from the groups. I usually start by filtering the feed to friends and check those first. And when I have time, I check groups or pages that I've followed. When I could get news, I had the news sources I trust in my favourites, but I need to revamp that feed. I hope that helps somewhat. One last thing. Messenger is great, especially if you have groups set up. That's how we have family chats, as our kids live in different communities, and sometimes we just want to have everyone chat together. It is also the branch of Facebook that I find gets problematic and can be the most frustrating. Right now, every single message is being read twice, and when I'm in a conversation, as soon as somebody starts to type, focus moves way up or to an older part of the conversation, and it gets cumbersome to get back down to the newest message. The easiest thing I have found is to leave the chat and go back in. I also utilize the scrub gesture a lot in both Facebook and Messenger. Happy tapping, Kamloops Christie. P.S. Stephen, you remember correctly, the train does stop here, and for the tours, they often spend a night. You probably did spend a night here in Kamloops. I wish I knew.
Yes, I did. I did spend a night in Kamloops, and I loved it.
Is that
I
a
really
country and
liked
western
it.
song? I spent a night in Kamloops.
See, we're in sync. Well, sometimes.
That's some great tips on using Facebook, by the way.
Yeah.
You know what, Facebook, there's just so much in it. I just don't feel like I'm scratching the surface when it comes to actually using it. I'm sort of, swiping along, tapping here, and then there's so much on there I think, well, what does that do? And I just never spent the time actually learning most of it. But I don't use Messenger at all. Actually, I don't think I've even got that installed. But I did notice one time there was like 157 messages in Messenger. I think I should have a look at that at some point, but I just don't use it.
Treat it like a feedback inbox. Just ignore it like you do.
How dare you, sir?
No, look, I think it's great. I think if you've built yourself up to using it, I think that's great. I'd never post. That's the reality of it for me. I'm a bit of a, I don't know, I feel terrible sometimes being on Facebook because I just feel all I do is read other people's stuff and never post anything of my own.
I know exactly what you mean. And when we were traveling over to California, I was checking in. Checked in at Manchester, checked in at Dublin, checked in at LAX. And when I got back, all I heard was, oh, look at you. Just showing off, checking in all over. I was told to, because I couldn't ring because of the time difference here and there. It was just
You're trying to help. Yeah, you were trying to let your family know you're okay.
I'm here. Yeah, and then you just get grief over it anyway. So it's like, yeah, I'm not going to bother anymore.
Yeah.
But, and also, when you get that this time 13 years ago, it just makes me go, oh my God, was that 13 years ago? I'm so old. So yeah, Facebook's terrible. Thank you.
No, I had a neighbour who posted they were going on holiday, and then by the time they got back, their house had been burgled, and I thought, yeah, you know what? Don't post that you're away. That's a bad idea. So, I was always conscious of that. Always conscious.
Could have been a
of it.
coincidence.
Yeah, but probably not. I mean, let's be honest.
Okay.
Especially if you're part of these, because there's a lot of these groups that people are part of, local groups, about the area.
Yep.
And I think the problem is people don't realize where this information goes. So you post it onto your page. If you have a friend who's part of a group, they can see that. I mean, unless you really cut back on the settings so that only literally your friends and no one else can see it. I don't even know if you can still do that anymore.
Yeah, but again, right, we're talking about personal responsibility. Is it on us to know those settings, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. But it's also on you to think, well, hang on a minute, am I telling the world where I'm going and why am I doing that? So my wife and I had this rule.
Is it down to the social media companies themselves to make it by default that no one else can see it, and we expand it out ourselves? Again,
that's dream world, right? Because they want the information to get out there. They want the sharing aspect. That's what the whole point of the thing is. But it's interesting. So, my wife and I have this rule that we will, if we do post anything up there, and I don't personally, but if we do, it's after the fact. It's after we're home. It's after, someone's like, we had a lovely time wherever we were, and we do it that way. But that's as far as it goes. And it's funny because I don't like posting. I hate pictures of me on those things. And my mother-in-law will sometimes be like, oh, I've just posted this picture. I haven't posted any pictures of you. And then I find out there's one picture up there of me. And I'm like, okay.
I think my profile picture on Facebook is from about 30 years ago.
The Halloween mask.
Yes, that's right. And that's from an app that did that. One of those that put filters on your face when that was a new thing. So, no, it's not really. The videos. That's all. I go onto Facebook. I check through the timeline briefly, and then straight onto the videos, and I watch, all the clips from my Only Fools and Horses and comedy shows and stand-ups that I like, Kevin Bridges and all the others, Michael McIntyre. So it's one of those algorithms. Once you watch a few and you stop scrolling and actually watch one of those videos for a while, it'll know what you like, and suddenly you'll find yourself just addicted.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, not addicted to that, but speaking of that kind of thing, algorithms, remembering and all the rest. Black Mirror's coming back. new series.
Oh,
It's this
I
month.
love Black Mirror. Is it?
I think so.
It seems such a long wait in between seasons of that.
It must be getting to the point with Black Mirror. It's hard to do because, I mean, I think of all the early ones. They've most all been done. It's all happened.
It's sort of, yes, what's left to scare us because we're living in it almost.
Yes, a horror of a dystopian world. It's like, well, wait a minute, we're already in that horror. So, what are you
No,
how are you going to scare us now? Show us
one of
a
those-
life when we just, ran through the fields. Yeah, show us
Little
that.
House
That's
on the
scary.
Prairie.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Homecoming episode. Okay, let's move on. We got Wesley here.
Hi guys, I was playing around with Luna for Reddit, a fantastic Reddit client for Windows by Nathan Tech. I thought of it that people were posting a ton of photos without alt text, and I wanted an image description. This particular app puts the URL to the image in parenthesis within a read-only edit control in the window. This is going to get a little geeky, so bear with me. I created an AutoHotkey script, which is basically a programming language to make stuff happen with keyboard shortcuts, etc. Before I go on, I should say AI did most of the work here. It looks for a URL in parenthesis, and then it copies it to the clipboard. I first open Be My Eyes before I invoke the script. It then presses Ctrl+Alt equals I, which tells Be My Eyes to describe the photo on the clipboard. Be My Eyes then takes that image and describes it. To make a long story short, I press Ctrl+Alt+D to copy the image link to the clipboard, then describe it with Be My Eyes. While there's a little bit of delay while Be My Eyes processes the image, it's almost instantaneous image descriptions for Reddit. Yippee! I still have to debug it and things, but in the next few weeks I hope to post it on my website at this link, wesleymartin.net/Reddit script, if anyone is interested. From Wesley.
Wow, okay. That's pretty intense.
Nerding out, and I love it. AHK is so powerful. I have tried that. It's AutoHotkey is a program for Windows which allows you to, well, what we've talked about before, really, where you can expand text. So if you type something like Shaun, it will type my full name and full address, maybe, and things like that. But that's very basic. You can get it to do things as Wesley has done there, which are so cool. I will say, Wesley, I had problems with the screen reader on AHK because they would interfere. I had to almost send a command to NVDA to send it to sleep and then send the other scripting commands before I could get it to do anything. But that was a good few years ago. So I'm going to try this out. But that's a great use of it. Thank you.
Cookie!
I had nothing.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
I had nothing
Stephen
to
Scott.
contribute, so I thought that's the best I can do.
That's great. Be My Eyes, by the way, coming to Mac soon.
I know.
Fantastic.
I can't wait. I'm very excited about that.
Well, you'll have to.
The equivalent, I guess, so that AutoHotkey thing, there's an equivalent on Mac called Keyboard Maestro, which Michael Babcock is trying to teach me at the moment. And I think that's pretty cool. Text replacement, which goes across. So text replacement's a real pain in the, how can I say
Is
this?
it? No,
There we
stop
go.
it.
A pain right there.
God bless you, mister. I
Because
think he's going to like that.
it just doesn't. I'm having enough trouble, so don't worry about it. So it just doesn't work in every application. So you go to a Microsoft application and you type in your codes, because basically with text replacement, you give it, say, a short code. So let's say you wanted to have a calendar for a link that I use to schedule interviews. I send it out to guests so they can schedule time to do the show. So I just have CDT for calendar for Double Tap, right? So I have CDT as my kind of short code. So wherever I am, I can type in CDT, hit spacebar, and it transforms that into the link, which is brilliant. Doesn't work in Outlook. Doesn't work on even some of the Apple apps. I don't understand why this is. Why is it not available across the board? It makes no sense. So things like that really annoy me, and that's why I'm always looking for alternatives.
No, you're absolutely right. And that's the same is on the iPhone as well. Because I've got a keyboard shortcut for, SDT, Shaun at double tap, on air.com
email,
for my email.
That's a good idea.
Sometimes you type it in and hit space and it just blah, blah, blah. It's not there. It doesn't do it. It doesn't respect it everywhere. And it's so annoying because it's such a useful feature.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. It's a great feature because it works across devices. In theory, it should be brilliant.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. I mean, and my favorite thing, I know I've said this before, but universal copy and paste saves me so many times. I mean, like when we do the show, I've got to send you a Zoom link, I'm going to send you the Zoom link. I can just copy it from my Mac straight into WhatsApp on the iPhone. Just edit, rotor to edit, paste, swipe down, and hit, go.
That is cool.
It.
There
So
has
good.
been lots of updates, by the way, to the Windows Phone Link app in the latest updates.
Oh.
And I haven't tried it out, but it does mention transferring files across from both Android and your iPhone. So you can transfer files across now. We really should look into that a bit more.
Yes, you should.
Yes, you should. I will do. I'll check it out.
Okay, let's move on. We've got another one here from Douglas.
Greetings and good afternoon, Shaun and Stephen.
Greetings.
I have listened to many of the last 3, 4, 5 podcasts and have lots of things to say. I have a USB-C razor from Brio. It's not a razor, it's a beard trimmer because I always have a little bit of a beard. Fantastic device, USB-C. It charges and it runs for 3 weeks before it needs a charge. It's a lovely beard trimmer. I recommend it very highly.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the people talking about having the lust to drive, the need to drive. I had to quit driving in my early 30s. My last car was a Porsche, so I got to drive a really lovely car. I drove it until it was clear that the vision in my right eye was pretty. The acuities were very bad, and then the left eye began to be affected with the same problem, a form of cone rod dystrophy. And then once the central vision in my left eye got to the point where I couldn't read street signs, I felt it was time to get off the road. So I sold my car to my dentist. I kept the keychain, and yes, very difficult period of a young man's life, or I guess anyone's life, to have to let go of the freedom that a car brings you. Yes, I understand. I understand the need to drive. Believe me. I have a question. Oh, another comment regarding needing assistance, asking for it, or having it being offered to you. I am always grateful for people offering me assistance because I am the worst at asking for help. I find asking for help really difficult, and if I am out on the street by myself with my Blinderstock, with my cane, if I find myself in a particularly difficult position, help is always welcome. The area in which I live, many people know me and are very happy to give me a little assistance if I need it. I have a question. I am a user of the Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses, and I've been very happy with them. I bought them when I was at home visiting family, and logged on there, got them set up there. Everything worked well. The Be My Eyes app was added to it. It was integrated into the system so I could access this. All beautiful, everything working well. The AI was working well. I got the update for the look command, and all these things were running really, really well. I was very happy that I could come into the kitchen and pick things up and just quickly ask it questions, and it would tell me what they were. About 3 weeks ago, here in Germany now, the Be My Eyes app vanished from my Meta app. The section within the app where you found the Be My Eyes, the assistive app section, I believe, was no longer there. So that's gone. And just today, I asked my glasses, because I could say, look and tell me what you see. And he was working, or the voice is a he, was working perfectly well until this morning. And he said to me, I can't do that. I can't do that with your glasses. And I checked the app, and I have a little notice saying the AI is no longer available in your area, which would be Germany. Is anyone else having this problem? The second question, in conjunction with this first one, is the use of a VPN of any help in this situation, because I have not been using one, or am I now AI handicapped, so to speak? Do I have now the loss of my AI just because of the situation regarding the EU and Meta? You guys are wildly entertaining. I find myself chuckling at times to where coffee is nearly flying out of my nose in the morning. So I appreciate the good humor you bring to so many people when the general mood of the planet, particularly focused on the United States, is not what one would like it to be. That will be my political comment for the afternoon. I wish you all a wonderful weekend, and thank you so much for your information. It's a great source of joy and intelligent conversation and solid information.
Well, I mean, sometimes, right? I mean, not all the time, clearly.
Kind of.
Yeah. I mean,
What a
little bit.
a lovely message. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Welcome to our pain. Welcome to Europe. Yes, look and tell.
No, that could mean anything. You could just end the show on that. Welcome to our pain. Well, is that what it says now at the airport? I don't know. I can never see the sign.
Look and Tell is not available, as you've suddenly found out, available in Europe. And Be My Eyes is part of that as well in Germany, which I did not know.
No, I didn't. We did reach out to Mike Buckley, CEO at Be
did.
My Eyes, good friend of the show, and he told me, no, not yet. No, they are working on it, but I guess it's all part of the bigger problem with Meta and privacy and everything else. Although I don't think Be My Eyes necessarily is attached to that, because it's even as the service through Be My Eyes isn't available yet. But I don't think Be My Eyes is available in Germany at the moment, which is
really. I was really surprised by that. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Honestly, we don't know. This is one of those cases where you're in your own little bubble, and I just assumed it was available over there, but apparently not. Now, to your second part of the question, would a VPN resolve this? Possibly, yes. Now, would it resolve it forever? Definitely not. So, as people, we were using this workaround right at the very beginning. Hey, I'm not in the UK. I'm not in Europe. I'm in Canada. And hey, okay, here's Look and Tell, and here's everything else. But sadly, Meta are cracking down on this. This is against their terms and conditions. So, you're not really meant to do it. So after a while, as soon as Meta find out, they will turn it off. And the only way to get it back again is to create a new account with a different email, re-register. Honestly, I just don't want to go through the hassle, but it depends how much you want that Look and Tell and maybe Be My Eyes. I'm not sure if you would get that with a VPN. But either way, a VPN can work, but honestly, it's a lot of work that you may have to repeat frequently. So it's entirely up to you.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a really tough one.
It is. It is.
I also want to just pick up on your point about the car as well. I mean, it's so interesting to hear you say that. And I'm so glad you feel you're able to say that here, because there are a small group of us, and I say a small group of us, basically anyone who's listening who's blind, right? Who probably has had that feeling. No, not everyone does. Not everyone has that feeling about cars or driving. I think I would imagine, certainly, I can't say I know, but I would imagine being able to drive, especially a Porsche, and then not having the option. I mean, goodness me, I'd be crying if I had to get rid of a Porsche.
Yes, absolutely.
But I get it, because it's I'm not going to say it's more frustrating, but maybe I think it is a little bit more frustrating actually, because you've had the experience. I think that's I kin it to the computer. I always go back to the computer. It's like you were talking about Facebook earlier, and I was thinking as you were saying it, I visualize Facebook in my mind, and it just seems like such a busy website that almost it puts me off.
Yes.
Because it just seems too big to deal with. But actually, with a screen reader, it's a little bit easier, right? Because you're just going from button to button or from heading to heading or
you
whatever.
You can skip over a lot.
Yeah, you can jump. I mean, the websites aren't quite as difficult to navigate when they're accessible, that is. I'm waiting
for the link back to driving. I'm really interested in where you're going with this.
No, it's the only kind of comparison I can make in the sense of that sense of loss where you just want to do something that you were like, if I could just get the mouse and just do that, I'd be there in 2 seconds and I'd be able to do this.
Well, that's just so many areas of our lives. It's that giving up things or feeling like you've lost something, whether it be just being able to go to the shops on your own at certain stages before you, get that white cane. The Blindensticken, by the way, very good.
I don't think that's right. I'm sure you've offended all of Germany.
No, that's what he said. He said the Blindensticken.
Stop saying that. That's probably totally something different. It's probably a delicacy over there.
Ah, yes. We all got to come to terms with that sense of grief. That's the long and short of it. Wow.
Whew. Wow.
Sorry.
I don't know what I think of this episode, but there we go. That's all you're getting. I'm done.
Is that it? Are we all emotionally spent now? We need an and finally moment. Stephen.
And then they all died.
Oh, thanks. That wasn't what I was thinking of. Oh, dear me.
That's the only one you're getting. Anyway, listen, we're out of time for today, almost. So just quickly to say thank you again for all your comments and for your feedback. I love the passion you guys have for the show. It means a lot to me, and I know some of you disagree with me from time to time, and that's fine. And, you know, Shaun and I are best of mates, so please don't worry about that.
Yes,
well,
everything's
unless
fine.
he tells me different. Or he hit me with his blinder-sticking or whatever it is.
Blinden-sticken?
Blinden-sticking. I still think that's wrong. There's something just does not sound right about that. But listen, we'll be back tomorrow with plenty more of your feedback. There's plenty more to get through, so we'll dive into that tomorrow. And of course, we'll keep you up to date. I am still loving my Mac Studio, so I'll tell you more about that. Although I will say, Windows on there has been an interesting experience. I'll maybe talk about that tomorrow.
What's the matter with it? No, I don't want to talk about it
it's
now.
an interesting experience. I'm not saying
What,
it's good or
interesting
bad.
in a good way?
I will tell you tomorrow. You've got to tune in
can't
and find
wait.
out. It's one of those moments. What will it be? Good or bad? Find out on tomorrow's entertaining episode of sorts of Double Tap. Anyway, that's it. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.